Hold tight, hold on. I don't know why I find that so funny. It's starting. Here we go. We're, hey, everybody.
Hello, how are you?
Fabulous. Good to have you with us. What's your name?
I'm a special man. You
You
know what
are.
the pose? You know what the pose is from? Like Michelle, I was just teasing her. I did the pose. She goes, "Oh, you're gonna." She laughed at me. Anchorman.
Oh,
So
there you go.
before they would do, oh, Ron, whatever their names were, right? So anyway,
Right. Exactly. That's so funny.
that's just for fun.
You know what? Life's too short not to have fun. So many serious things going on. It's so
Yep,
funny. You dressed up, I dressed down. I couldn't get I couldn't get out of my gear fast enough. So I'm an old t-shirt today. You're the Velcro button guy.
it's real buttons, people. Nothing
No,
but the best.
see, we don't mess around over here.
Now I
So
may be wearing shorts. I'm not going to show anybody.
and we thank you for that.
Yeah, I thought you'd appreciate
Yeah,
that.
right. Exactly. Very good. So we're thrilled to be here with you. Another wacky Wednesday with Michelle and Tom. I can't believe it is August 21st. Like we are almost at Labor Day.
It's crazy.
It really is. Absolutely.
I've been saying for this is just my perception or perspective,
Either
is
or.
it just feels like every year feels just a little bit faster, right?
You can, oh yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And it's so funny because Nicole's 30 now. And she said that to me recently. She says, how is time going by so fast? And I said, welcome to adulting. I think the older we get, the faster it seems to go by, right?
Yeah. Welcome,
Absolutely.
welcome. Jess has joined us nice and early. Well, we were late, so welcome, Jess.
Hi, Jess. Glad you're here with us.
Yeah.
Excellent. Glad to have you with us. Tom, pop quiz. Did you win at bingo?
Oh my word. So for those for Jess who's watching now, other people will jump on when they can, and for people to watch it later. Um, Bingo. So did were you raised going to the bingo and stuff like that or no?
Not at all.
So
No.
no interest, right?
Not well, when I was an adult and pregnant and couldn't go to the bar, I started going. Um, but until then, no. And we were the bingo capital of Canada for a while.
I'll
Okay,
have to go
hashtag
when I come
bingo
out.
cap.
But
Yeah.
so yeah, so for me, I grew that's where I grew up. It was kind of this. I remember like being four
Oh,
or five. I was brought to bingo by my mom and sat on the table, and I don't know if I had a coloring book back. I don't know whatever I had, right? So I just grew up. It was part of our grandma Jean and people like that. So this bingo is like an Elks Club. It's not very big. Yeah, maybe 60 people there, 70 people, not bad. And and so when I go, mom wants to be there early. Mom has to have a table near the bathroom, which just because that's one of her needs.
self-explanatory.
Yeah, there you go. And so she wants to be there from 4. She wants to be there before 4 to get her table. And so where the bingo is like 20 minutes out of town. So it's so her friend Shirley drove her there and then she came back with me. But it's still, if I'm there from 4:30 till 9:30, it's long.
Oh, I bet.
It's so long. And so but the people are lovely. Like
Oh,
to
yeah.
me, that it's like probably like the Legion or could be like these groups of people are everybody's different in the little circles, but they're so wonderful. But long version of that. So I did win 25 bucks.
Hold on. Where's my pom
Yeah.
poms?
I did
Hey,
share it. Share
you didn't share?
I shared it with mom.
Oh, good. Okay.
Um, and
Her
um,
birthday.
and it was funny because like there's this indigenous woman who's like 4 foot nothing, and she calls me her boyfriend, which I love. She's so sweet.
Oh,
And,
no, we
and
don't care. We
if she
don't
had
judge.
money, I'd date her.
Okay, there.
I'm for those that know or don't know, me and my wife are separated. We're still kind of together, but we live separate. So I guess we both get the
Complicated.
best of both worlds. But I do tell her, like, I don't want to live alone forever. I'm gonna come
Right.
rent a room at your place or something. But
Right. Oh, sure.
I have no problem meeting some.
Sugar
I'm
mom.
joking here,
Sugar
people.
mama.
What's that?
Sugar mama. You can
I
have a
would be
sugar
one of those
mama.
guys that I would invest and share if it's your last 3 or 6 months of your life. If you're a woman, I would come be with you and
Got
make
your
the last 3 or 6 months pretty awesome,
there.
right?
See, joy. It's all about the joy.
And then I get your
Absolutely.
crochet knitting, I get your 1970s couch.
Right. Hey, spoon and plate collection.
There you go. And the
Right now,
spoons that are on the wall with the little,
right.
no, but
So I just like to add, bingo ladies are fabulous until you talk too loud, and then they'll take you down. Right? If they're waiting for a number and then you laugh too loud, or that's why I didn't last long at bingos because I
well,
actually went for fun.
we went for fun. I don't, if you win, it's great. Like you probably cost you $50, $40, right?
Sure.
But
Yep.
and it's funny here because people talk loud and mom's got like a hearing aid and she hears she doesn't hear well, but with her hearing aid, she hears all the annoying sounds, like if somebody drops something or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But what they do is they have this money ball that they pick out of their first game, whatever. And whenever the money ball comes out, like if you win on the money ball, you get whatever's in the pot, right? But what
Okay.
they do is when the money ball comes out, everybody has like squeaky, like dog toys, like squeaky chickens. So as soon as like this number comes out, everybody's going quack, 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 stuff. So it's, and you look around, you see people have never been there before, and they're going like they don't know what happened. But the whole point is for those that now listen to us and now stop listening to us because of Tom's story. It's really about social. I went to bingo with my mom's 80th our mom's 80th birthday yesterday, so I went to be there, and I like I said,
Course.
it's too long, but it's a sacrifice. But once you're there,
I've never regretted going.
no,
And my my thought was I can spend $30 here because I'm very frugal, or I could go to the casino and spend it in 7.5 minutes. So at least I'm getting 2 hours of entertainment. And
yeah.
I'm mixing things up a bit because I'm pretty loud.
And
So
I would be the type of person that if
yeah.
they had like crib or like Legion type stuff, like those things, I would totally fit in. That's my jam, right? I'm like you,
Oh,
with
okay.
social people, right? But in saying that, I was saying to Michelle before, it's been blah for me. The weather's been blah. It's been
Here
like
too.
cooler, raining, which we need, a lot of fires.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, just, and I don't know what you do, Michelle, or what people do here. We have a couple more people, Callie and Wendy. Wendy, I'll say, if I don't say your name, I'm not saying your last name, Wendy. It's one of the
Wendy.
Wendy's.
I
Yeah,
know, I
Wendy.
know, I know a couple Wendy's.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, and I don't know what everybody's like, but for me, it's so easy when like it's interesting how your climate or weather affects you,
Oh,
and then
totally.
affects your mood, and then when it affects your mood, it affects your habits, eating, whatever,
Exactly.
right?
Everything. Yeah.
So I love being aware of it, but I also like it's such a weird thing. It's like a tangible feel, right? So, anyways, I'm glad to be here. Glad to see your wonderful face.
Thank you so much. I've been working on it all day.
How
I had
how have you been?
I'm okay. Yeah, I'm doing good. So we had Gemma all day today, and there's nothing that makes you more tired than waking up to a 7-year-old with an activity book. So, and then I worked with her here. So she was hanging out with Papa, but as soon as she sees me for my 15-minute break, she drops everything
Oh,
and
that's
she wants
funny.
to do something. And I'm like, I got 5.5 minutes left and a coffee with my name on it. So, you sort of hit the ground running. And then it was cold today. So I sort of had that chill all day. But besides all that, it's been great. Every day I wake up is a great day. Right. And I've been working on some things as well. I'm actually, there's a, so we live just a couple doors down from what's called Mitten Village. It's a little commercial area here in town, and they have a big block party on Saturday. So I'm setting up my tie dye. So I've been working on that, which is good. And Nicole's going to participate.
Oh, good.
Probably Gemma is going to hold a sign, trying to putting her to work, free labor. So I'm excited for all of that. And yeah, so overall things are going good. But even if things weren't going good, it's an attitude of gratitude for the win, right? It's other
Yeah.
things that I just have to work through. So it's all good.
Yeah, yeah, it's such an interesting thing of how you um, manage like I said, you said it's gloomy there. It's gloomy here,
Yeah.
right? And then in the news, me and Michelle, we're going to be talking about enabling everybody joining us. And what we do, we never try to push a perspective we have or
That's right.
understanding we have. We share. That's what we do, and we do appreciate you guys sharing.
Mhm.
And it was funny, if I can bring this up, Michelle. We were just talking before. Michelle was just mentioning how tough it is right now in Sarnia, and mentioned about like some of the violence and the crime, right?
The homeless and yep,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and I told her, I saw an article last week that where I live in Chilliwack, BC, we were the third highest crime per capita in the country, and we've got lots of homeless. And one of my friends' businesses, he's got like a little, it's a cinnamon bun company business, right?
Yep.
And his signage and windows have been vandalized. And just so when we get into talking about enabling, it's one of these things. So how do you empower, which is good, versus enable, which is not good?
Exactly. Help versus hinder, right? And we're all affected in one way or another. So it's got so bad here um that some of the stores downtown they're not unlocking their doors even when they're open because of conflict or theft or
Right.
so it's I'm always hopeful that there's better things ahead, right? That there's light at the end of the tunnel or whatever the answers are, but I have to rein myself back in at the same time as well and realize I can't control that. I can just control my own environment. And sometimes you have to sort of work through that, right? It's funny. I was so frustrated this week on in on one day because I got an email saying I missed an appointment and it was an important health appointment. And then I'm like, I missed an appointment. And then I looked at my email. So apparently now we just do everything by email. They don't bother phoning anymore. So then I look and I'm like, oh, the appointment that was referred in February was scheduled in April for August. I didn't confirm. And then I missed the appointment. But after when I found the email of the appointment, and I'm sure I can redo it. But in that moment, I saw, oh, send a review of how you think the system
Oh,
works.
geez.
Oh my goodness. So after a scathing review from Michelle, I felt fabulous. It's like your system's broken.
Yeah,
So whatever. I mean, I'll go in 6 months when you book me again. But in that moment, I didn't have control. I couldn't change it. And then I'm like, patient didn't show up. What the hell? But then after I gave the strongly disagree review and I added some verbiage, very polite but assertive, then I felt better. I dropped it, I let it go, and I carried on with my day, knowing that I was going to get great results anyways. So I can wait 6 months. Damn it.
that's funny. And actually, I find it annoying, but actually, I appreciate it. Even after what you said, I get notifications like my dentist. I've been seeing for like
Oh,
30 years.
that's just,
I
yeah.
get like I'll get a text notification 2 weeks and a week,
Mhm.
and I actually love it. And so,
I
and
love that too.
yeah,
Sure.
and so doctors, I gotta make sure I make my own notification, right?
Apparently.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, just one of those things. But
Yeah, I love the text. I actually got a text from my dentist today that he
yeah,
misses me.
that misses your teeth.
He misses, I know, and I'm thinking, why
That
still got
money.
money to spend by the end of the year? So I'll
Yeah,
be by. Don't
yeah.
you worry.
You said something interesting earlier a few minutes ago, is like this balance of sugar plums and fairy tales and pixie dust and stuff like that. And in one hand, this is funny. This is maybe self-enabling or empowering,
Yeah,
but how do we not let difficult things, I'm going to use the word, destroy us?
right.
How do we manage them in a healthy way? And I think I mentioned to you before, one of the things, some of the courses that I've taken is dealing with anxiety, stress, and some anger management, stuff like that. And did I tell you about the scream therapy?
Yep.
Yeah. So I love that, because you didn't say about screaming, but I have a friend says, like, it's a posh woman, English woman, friend
Okay.
of a friend's mom,
Yep.
and she kind of knows what I'm doing because I'm doing stuff with her son and helping her son out. And she goes, it wouldn't be proper. She's almost queen like. She goes, it wouldn't be proper to scream out loud, but she goes, I've screamed many times in my head. I said, hey, that works for you?
That is so funny. So my mom that adopted me, we like there was no swearing in the house. Never till the day they died did I ever hear my parents swear. And my kids don't swear to me or for the most part around me. Although they've heard me swear before, but anyways, regardless. But I remember my mom saying, I've never said the F word, but I've said it in my head before. Okay. Okay.
You know what I'm
That
thinking now?
yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm thinking?
Exactly right. But it's so true. And I mean, this is this is the world we live in. There's going to be things that push our buttons. It's how we respond. I could have spent the whole rest of my day being angry about it, and I was still working my other job. So then it would have carried over into that. I probably would have blew some commissions out of the water. So yeah, reining it in, it's so important. And I think it ties in with that enabling because there again, quite often we're trying to help with things that we can't control, right? So we're putting all this effort in or all these different emotions like guilt that is tied in with enabling. It's such a big thing, right? Like the
Yeah,
whole thing is huge. So
yeah,
glad Gwen mentioned it last week because
yeah,
it ties in with everything.
yeah. And I do think, yeah, I think that I looked at the post you did. I looked at that video you put on there, and you asked my opinion. So sure, it was fine. Like I think I've seen. I don't know if I've
Good.
seen that one, but yeah, it's kind of what I do to kind of just self-centered, like just to,
What's the body scan? So it
yeah,
goes piece by
yeah,
piece.
yeah. And part of it, I just think part of it, in like all of us in our day, we've got like a group of people on double, couple Wendy's, Francine. Um,
Ooh, Francine.
Welcome, Francine. I don't
Woo.
think I know you, but anyways,
Well, we love
but
Francine. Just saying.
there you go. But what happens is if we don't find a way, I got a hashtag for you. I just wrote down.
Ooh.
Hashtag don't swallow your own poison.
Ooh,
That's a
gee,
tie-dye t-shirt.
that is. I can have
Yeah.
that done.
But what happens is it's that kind of old example of, the guy's at work having a lousy day and he comes home, kicks the dog, yells at the kids and his wife, and then goes into the back and grabs a drink or something, right? And so we the whole thing, what we want to do, I'm saying in general, I think we want to do is we want to know how to not allow that type of experience to affect us in a way that sets us off. And it's not even just for a moment, it actually becomes embedded part of our routine, right?
That's right.
Right. I know many people, I don't know about you, many people that are pissed off at the world, many.
Oh, absolutely.
So let's talk about enabling, because that's what we're going to talk about. So when we use the word, and if anybody wants to put in the comments there, and me and Michelle shared it, like this video goes on YouTube, but nobody sees the comments, so it's just the video. So that's
Right.
why we don't use people's last names, and they
Right.
don't see your comments. But when we say the word enabling, what are some of if you got thoughts, put them down in the comments. But what are some of your thoughts, Michelle?
So when I think of enabling, I think of relationships, obviously. And the first thing I think of is that enabling guilt. Because a lot of times, whether it's with your children or with your partner, we carry so much of that on us. Like if I was a better parent to Nicole, just using her for an example, but then maybe she wouldn't be in whatever situation that I'm enabling, right? Or with a relationship, quite often, and I know both sexes do it, but a lot of time with women, like we try to be the fixers. And that was definitely me in my first long-term relationship, is that I had some preconceived notion in my head that my partner was going to grow out of bad habits or bad activities. And then as he did not, it actually went the opposite direction. And this is without judgment. Like this was 35 years ago. It's really irrelevant. I own my own part of things that happened there. But part of me owning that is sticking around out of guilt and enabling that activity so that it didn't look as bad as it was, because then I was the dumbass that was tolerating it or whatever that looked like, right? And so it doesn't have to be like, a lot of times we think it's, alcohol or drug, like an addiction related, but it could be as far as like justifying somebody else's behavior or tolerating what last week when we got talking about boundaries versus walls, right? That was such a good thing, and I kept thinking about that through the week. That you can have no walls, but you have to have boundaries
Yeah.
in relationships, right? Sometimes too, it's maybe you're enabling bad behavior from your ex, thinking that you're protecting the children, right? Like making excuses for, or whatever that looks like. It's just such a deep thing, but it touches into all sorts of different things. A corrupt boss you could enable by not setting up boundaries or following the status quo. It's a
Yeah,
lot.
it's like, and we're all different, right? So we all, there's things that we like to investigate. So Michelle and I are just part of our own personal journey, but part of where we're at,
Mhm.
are investigating wellness and sharing, our findings, our experiences,
Yeah.
what we're learning. That's where we're at. So, but sometimes there's people. What happens is you're just tired, right? So I wrote down a couple things. But I have a thought for you. I want to circle back to one thing that you said, and I
Okay.
put enabling thoughts, and you mentioned guilt and shame, right? Fixers, right?
Yeah.
The idea of trying to overcome someone else's problems, right? And it's an interesting thing. So here's kind of the circle back question. Where do you think, in just your opinion, your experience maybe, where you would like come out of being a child and an adolescent, then a teen, then an adult, do you see enabling behavior? Now, this could depend on if you're an oldest child, like, oh, there's a whole bunch of different things involved,
Absolutely.
right?
For
But do
sure.
you, for you, in the relationship, the first relationship you mentioned, did do you have kind of at this point thoughts on why the enabling behavior was something that you used or needed or tried to, like, we're always trying to help people, right?
Mhm.
You know what I mean, right?
I do. So I think with me, and even with my second long-term relationship, because we all got to collect something. Um, so even with that one, I think I had unreasonable expectations. And so I took it like a personal failure when I wasn't going to be with the father of my children anymore. And then with the second one, same thing, but we got married. So, and my parents were together, like my dad died in his 50s. They had their, I don't think their 30th anniversary when he died, but they definitely had their 25th. So I had preconceived motion, ideas and perceptions, if you will, of what I thought a healthy relationship would look like. And I was almost sacrificing joy just for the fact of staying with that same person. Right. And then once it's like, then once bad things start to happen, like say verbal abuse, mental abuse, physical abuse,
Yep.
then you start to carry that emotion of, yeah, but if I didn't leave the first time, then I'm the stupid one, right? Like you go through all these different emotions, and then whatever the verbal, like it just is a great big festering mess, quite frankly. And best thing I ever did was change that. But you have to have that aha moment, or there has to be some sort of shift to help you walk out the door or make that big change. But you think about when you look back, like when I look back and I think like no regrets because I had these awesome children and whatever, and it's all part of my life journey. But at the same time, like I sit, because I'm an analytical research and development person, I sit and I think, wow, like that was 5 years of a lot of just drama and fight or flight mode, right? Like a lot of a long period of that. But I think, yeah, my expectation was, you made your bed, you lie in it.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
That's such an interesting thing about like you think of like I'm like you. I'm just intrigued and I'm
Mm,
curious and kind of that's just my wiring now. And I think the reason I'm like that now, and I think probably when we get older, if we're still stuck in kind of that enabling
oh,
model, and
yeah,
you could enable them, like be a really good, like you're just really trying to help somebody you love, and it's hard it's hard to do the hard things sometimes, right? But for
for sure.
me, and I would
Yeah,
say for probably a group of us, um, as we get older, some of those things, the power of it shifts. So all of a sudden, this thing of, well, I've got to fix everything and make everything right, and I want everybody to be happy, and then I'll worry about me later, and overlooking, talking about boundaries, but over knowing something is unhealthy for a partner. I'll use for an example, and this may, some people may connect with this. You can have somebody who, like I'm thinking in England, where even the young people, every meal, everybody had a drink, no big deal,
oh,
no,
absolutely.
no big deal, right?
Yeah,
But you can have somebody here that has a partner that drinks to self-medicate
yeah,
because they don't want to deal with their stress and all this stuff, and
yeah,
so they implode, and then what we try to do is go around with like a blanket and clean up their vomit or take their verbal, and so and I know I'm probably being a little bit, I'm not trying to be triggering, but I'm trying to be honest, right?
uh-huh,
And so once you get the courage to come out of that, once you realize, unless somebody values himself enough to take the steps, I don't care if you take 100 steps,
that's right.
right? Like we use me as an example with trying to lose weight so I can have one more surgery, and
Yeah,
a lot of us, these goals to be healthier, right? We learn not to beat ourselves up, and
exactly.
and that thing's so important. So this whole idea of it's just an interesting thing. I have a person that me and Michelle knows, and when I say this example, she'll know who I'm talking about. I want to code it just in case. And there's somebody we know that has ended up in a relationship, meeting these guys in the bar and
Hmm.
having a relationship, and this person is an incredibly
Absolutely.
kind person. You know what I'm talking about
Yep,
now.
yep.
And yeah, two clues, like password, two clues. And
Winner, winner.
and then we always say, well, I'm not going to do that again. And then because we probably haven't processed,
Yeah,
like we've got out of the fire, but we're still walking around the fire, right? And so,
exactly.
and that could have been you a little bit with number two, not saying, but we have way more information and
Absolutely.
understanding now, right? And
Yep.
so this person now who's somebody who we know really well,
Mhm.
is in a totally different relationship,
Fabulous. That's right.
totally different age, totally somebody never picture this person with,
Yeah,
but it works well for them. There's no,
absolutely.
she's not, doesn't need to enable,
Yeah,
right? She doesn't need to. So one of the, I think, nice things with age, like some of that, like I think when
I
we
think so
enable, I think
too.
sometimes it's out of an internal need we have. Maybe like, so sometimes we think it might be easier, like we fix somebody else and we fix ourselves, right?
Right.
We may not consciously think it, but so for me as an oldest child, and Michelle and I've shared, we didn't grow up together. We reconnected after you were in your 70s. No, I'm joking. We reconnected 20 some years ago.
30 some years ago. I
Okay,
was
yeah,
I was
I'm old, right?
You're
And
old, yeah. How
and
old
but
are
I
you?
know for me as the oldest child, and when everything was going on, and this isn't shifting blame on
No, no.
mom or any of this stuff, but I know for me, being the oldest, I felt like I couldn't protect my siblings.
Mhm.
And I felt like when things were going well, I don't think you always have to be the oldest. It seems like in studies, an oldest child takes that responsibility, but you have different personalities. You have a middle child, a younger child, where you want everybody to be good and safe, and you know,
That's right.
and so how do you, when you have that personality type, and I think we talked about nature and nurture.
Yeah,
That can be nature. You could be born with a characteristic like this. It's not bad, right? But when you understand, going, okay, I'm not helping, I'm not helping this person. I'm making it harder for this person to become well. I've done lots of work with drug addiction places, right?
yeah,
Over the years, and I know people that smoke a little dope, do whatever, and they're totally fine. We're talking about like that's like having a drink. It's fine. It's not ruining their
yeah.
lives. But the people that I've had to work with, I bet, I'm not even joking, I bet you hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of men over many years, right? One of the things that happens in there that you have to kind of work through is there's always been an enabling parents,
Oh,
partner,
absolutely.
sibling, friend
Yeah,
that tries. It's the friend that doesn't leave the buddy drunk in the bar, but gets them home, wants them to be safe, which is good.
yeah, for sure.
It's not a bad thing, but they're fearful to confront the behavior, right? So
Exactly right.
part of understanding that, like I think the more we understand ourselves, like if we understand, like we're compassionate people, we're empathetic, right? We are, some other people here. So if you know that, um, you want to make sure you have a boundary in that, because you can be taken advantage of.
Oh, for sure. And drawing that line. So just to circle back to some of the things you said. So for any of you that don't know, so yeah, Tom and I were raised in different homes, same mom. So our mom had 7 children in 9 years. That's the short version. So because you and Jimmy would be 9 years apart. So I think when you're talking, I think you and our oldest sister Tammy were like the parents, like the surrogate parents, if you will. So I can totally see how moving forward, how that played a part mentally for both of you, right? Because you were the parents to dysfunctional parents. Um, and it's so funny when you're talking about that, because one of the first things that came to my mind, and anybody who's watching that's a bit younger, don't take this, I'm not doing a blanket statement because my children are this age, but you look at a lot of the kids today that like, and again, I don't want to get into a big discussion about spankings, but like the happy chair came out, there was no competition anymore, everybody gets a participation award. And then, now we're in this different world, not getting into details, but where you have a whole nother generation that, like, I just watched a thing on like kids that think like, oh, work is hard, I don't want to do it, I don't want to start at the bottom, I want to go right to the top. like we're seeing more and more of that right now. So that's interesting. A great, and I don't know if you've ever, and this is me, the documentary junkie, if you've ever watched Hoarders.
Yeah, like
That
maybe one or two times.
Okay, so I watched it about 57 times, just so you know. And and again, it's the mind part. And if you want to think about people, like they call the family in, they get the guys in with the trucks, they get the psychologist in, but it's so interesting when, so you've got like mom and dad say, and they're sleeping on garbage, they can't get to their rooms, they don't have a kitchen, they're in this environment, and the kids didn't say anything because they didn't want to upset them, or they just stopped going over, or like, so it's that then they feel guilty and then they have a big blow up and everybody's losing it.
Yeah.
But it's the collection of everything where, and it always ends up that somebody's grieving, or it's that fear of like that lack, right? And like I can't watch the ones that like really are, but the ones that are just like stuff, right? Like there's some that it's all about the food. That ties in with so much more. But when you look and you say, like, how did you end up with your whole house full and 8 sea cans in your yard? And then
Right.
you find out they have 3 rental units, like that are also full of stuff. And again, it's not putting the blame on the other people, but when they're coming out, they stopped asking the questions, or they stopped checking in on, and it's of feelings. It's that they didn't want to hurt their feelings, or they felt like it was always a fight, where that's something so much deeper. And so like once they, clean this house out or whatever, it is a lot of times it's so that they're not losing their house. It's that continual work so that they can actually work through what, the losing of the partner, or, it's trauma. It always goes back to trauma. So it's so interesting because again, a lot of times we think enabling, well, that's, I don't have a drug addict in my family right now, or whatever that looks like. It can be so many different things. I mean, you see it all the time with people with a wellness journey, right? Where, or when you look at, like the 800-pound person, and then it's like they're on their last leg if they don't lose some weight so they can have a surgery or whatever they looks like. Well, that person can't walk, so who's sliding the McDonald's every day at 4?
Yeah.
You know what, like, and that just embraces all those emotions that come with it.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, again, we're definitely not gonna deal with this in one
Oh,
day,
there's
because
no way.
it's like that. Um, did you ever see Avatar?
Oh, I loved it,
So,
absolutely.
so the idea of the tree, that all the roots and everything. So the thing is, we can talk about one thing and then everything meanders, right?
Yeah.
So the whole idea of, we're using hoarders for an example, and I heard this somewhere, I don't know where it was, but it talked about, well, we can become emotional hoarders. We can become mental hoarders. You have like an empathetic person who feels for, and then trying to get under, finding what the under roots are of somebody who's an emotional hoarder that's got to fix everybody. So you
Right.
think of somebody just on one level of the show Hoarders, and you think of like, and you think of, well, why is it important to them, why is it hard for them not to get rid of anything, why is it hard for them to have 50 sets of plates, or you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
And
And it's
so
over time.
and it's like working through addiction. When you're working through, and like we can go to the hoarders is like up here,
Yeah.
somebody's 800 pounds is up here, somebody that's like a fentanyl addict's up here, right?
Yeah.
And you have people, I'll use it in the area of drugs, and how enabling works, and how we talk about empowering works, and trying to figure out finding the balance, right? And you have somebody. I had a friend who passed away a couple of years ago, and he went through this program that I was involved with. This guy's a rough dude, prison time, family of five, and then he went through this program and ended up being the intake person, right? And this guy loves his wife, and this is a guy I would talk to weekly, right? And loved his five kids, and he was like a quiet guy. He was like this quiet construction worker, big dude, right? And his family went away to see her parents in the Okanagan, a couple hours, 3-4 hours away on a weekend, and he had enough outlets to, if he was feeling,
Yep.
you know, he needed somebody to talk to, he had enough, right?
Mhm.
And he, for whatever reasons, this person we talked all the time. This person wasn't doing anything heavy, so for whatever reason that we'll never know, went and got some street fentanyl, and I think he did hard drugs when jail, like a long time in his life, but I think he smoked a bit, but nothing crazy. Him and his wife, right? But he had conquered that. He had accountability, right?
Yeah.
He went out, got fentanyl, and his wife and kids left Friday. They came home Sunday, and he had been he found him dead on the floor, right? And so the reason for the story, the sad end story is horrible. It's sad. No life insurance, and now you got a mom who's dealing with, so you have all of these compounding stuff, right? So, but you look at the person who we're enabling, and it doesn't have to be hardcore. It could be spending money. It could be
Absolutely.
like we become fearful to um um not what's the word I'm thinking of, to conflict, what's the word, sorry, again, old here, not
Yeah,
confrontation,
the conflict and
to
having
confront.
confronting. There we
There
go.
we go. I got a gold
So
star now. And you know what it is, Michelle? I believe this is what I believe. It comes down to communication. So how do we, and there's shows like intervention and things like hoarders,
yeah.
shows like that, right?
Yeah.
And so you've got people that are frustrated that try doing anything, and then they feel that they've been used and taken advantage of, even though they don't take responsibility that they didn't have to do any of that stuff, right?
Right.
And so we live in this tension of going like, shit, or like you said, we live in guilt and shame of ourselves and go like, why did I stay with that partner or an abusive boss?
Yep.
And I'm like, even now with the economy, we go, I can't quit this job. I'm just going to put up with it, right? So I think, how do we in those situations find healthy communication?
Right.
Because to be able to, and sometimes it takes finding a moment, like if you're dealing, like hoarders could be, as an example, could be maybe a little bit different. And where mom lives out here, they evicted a woman down a couple doors down who was a hoarder.
Oh yeah.
And boxes and boxes and boxes. I remember seeing her. I didn't know this woman. It's in like a senior kind of low housing, whatever, right? Yeah. And but to me, I find it intriguing. Like, what happened? Like her husband had died, and she was in her, I think she's 70s, right? Yeah. And so me, I'm going like, so what happened? Maybe being alone and
exactly.
your vices. She had unopened boxes of Amazon, 50 and 60, whatever, right? And so and they had to evict her, and she found somewhere, but they had to evict her because there was a fire issues, right?
Yeah, that's right, exactly.
Yeah. So, but how do you find in having a conversation? So I've learned over the years, hopefully get better, when I'm having a conversation with somebody who's dealing with hard drugs or dealing with I deal mostly with men, but with men who are working through like they're like, they hit 10 out of 12 narcissistic qualities. Because I think we have narcissistic quality, but they hit a whole bunch of them. And what happens is you have a fearful partner that can't confront because they're silenced and all stuff. So then by their lack of action in some way, they're enabling, but they're not meaning to. Like, it's such a hard there's such a hard middle ground, right? But part of it is figuring out communication. Part of it, in my opinion, is coming to a point of going, okay, I love you. And because I love you, how do we have this talk? Right?
Exactly. And setting the boundaries. I think it's
Yeah.
all hand in hand, right? And realizing that like me saving you isn't good for you because like everybody has to hit a bottom or have a struggle, or you see it a lot of times with grandparents raising grandchildren,
Yeah.
right? It's another thing. So like, where is that boundary? Or, like not all the time, but when we look after, it's different because Robert's upstairs and his kids are never here. But like if we take Gemma a lot, Nick pays us for babysitting, not what you would pay, and a lot of times we'll say no, but sometimes I say yes. It depends, right? And so, and I think part of that with me though is that I didn't have that growing up. I made my bed, I lied in it. I had my kids, I raised my kids, my parents would take them when I had just the boys, they would take them the last Saturday of every month. And that was my time to drink my face off or whatever it was I was doing at the time. Because I was working a lot. So it was my social time. And then when I had Nicole, my dad had died, and my mom said, you've got too many kids. I'm not doing that anymore. And then I was on my own. So not saying that's necessarily the way it should be either, but it's so interesting in today's dynamics. You see it all over in all sorts of different ways. And there's a point where, just setting up like that snow fence, like we talked about last week, like it's got a little bit of push and pull, but it's still a boundary. And because you're not going to sacrifice yourself, that doesn't make sense either. That is not good for your mental health.
Yeah. And I think with it, I'm just thinking, we were talking a bit earlier just about like a homeless situation, crime, and I find it's easy to live in passive, like overtly passive
Yeah,
or overtly aggressive. A part
right.
of that can be so we talked about nurture nature. Part of it is, if you like it or not, just telling you, if you don't have to agree with me, but I'm telling you the truth, is we our environment has an effect on us. Now, it may not have 90%, maybe 10%. Like right now, we are affected, if we like it or not, by what's going on in the States. You can pretend you don't like it. Like I don't avoid politics, but I don't live there.
Right.
I just wish the people we trust, just to get back to the homeless and poor, I just wish the grandstanding would just be gone. Like just have healthy communication, right?
Right.
So back to products or environment, me and Michelle were talking about, we both live in areas that have lots of crime. Michelle said, you said a police officer was shot last night?
That's stabbed.
Stabbed, right? Are they alive? Is he alive? They
Alive.
alive?
Yeah.
Okay. And so talking about like the enabling mindset, but trauma. So all of a sudden you got a person who's protecting the streets, and some people are gonna have good and bad. I have people all over the map, like cops suck, and like I have some people in the States that have seen abuse, like whatever. I've seen abuse in the dishwasher at a restaurant has been abusive, right?
Right.
A 3-year-old kid who tells you to F off is whatever, right? You don't want to run into too many of them, right? But part of it is how do we take a breath? Like Michelle and I talk all the time, take a breath, kind of recenter and go, okay, what can I do? First of all, we got to be healthy. If we're not on this road to being healthy, we're only able to give what we have.
That's right.
Right. You can, oh, by the way, you can give information and talk. I'm in sales, right? So you can do pitch talk, which is basically what's going on in politics, right? Don't tell me, don't say what you're going to do what you're going to do, right? And so go back to enabling. We live in my opinion, again, we live in a culture, both North America, I think, probably all over the world, right? where we're in a bit guilt and shamed on how do we take care of our poor, and there's a good compassionate empathetic component of it.
Yeah.
But then how do you find a healthy balance? Because
Exactly.
whatever, if I get in trouble for this, just my opinion, and we can have different opinions, right? My experience from being an addict, my experience from being on the street, I've been there a long time ago, right?
Yeah.
I don't think throwing clean or drugs at the person is the right solution, right?
That's right.
It's like taking for weight loss, it's like taking drugs that they have all over now that helps you lose weight. But if you don't change habits,
Right.
as soon as you don't deal
Exactly.
with that, you're going to be messed up, right? So
Exactly right.
so having a healthy, not an enabling um, national mindset,
Yeah.
local mindset, right?
Yeah.
And having an empowering mindset instead of enabling is hard. And I'm just, again, I'm be transparent. It is, for me, one of the things that I do, and I do self-talk all the time, not in a crazy way, a little bit of crazy way, but I have to look in the mirror, not figuratively, well, sometimes, and I go, you're lying to yourself, right? Like you talk about
Absolutely.
you're being nice and you're generous and all that, which I am,
Mhm.
but are you are you doing it at the expense of responsibility?
Right.
Being honest, right? And you're
Yeah.
frugal, so you will like not in a, like not there's no right or wrong.
Mm.
You would not even dare think of not being responsible at the end of being generous, right?
Right. Right. Right.
And so part of it is, I think, being like I wrote down there how to be healthy and empowering. Well, it begins with ourselves, and like when you know yourself, and like or learning we're learning to know ourselves because we're always changing and adapting, by the way.
Yes, we
Like
are.
in the next couple of years, I'm going to be different, hopefully good, right? But what happens is, as we evolve, as we grow and learning from experience, meandering through so many different cultural differences, like going through COVID, leaving the good and bad, but the strain, the emotional and mental and financial strain that COVID happened, whatever, it doesn't matter on whatever. We went through that roller coaster.
That's
And
absolutely. Everybody
and
has their own trauma from that.
and that, I don't care what side you're on, right, left,
Yeah.
doesn't matter. That has had an effect more than our country will ever realize. Now, I'm not beating up the people that were responsible. I'd like to sometimes, but I'm not, because I didn't have the responsibility, right?
Right.
But so looking back is good because we look back, well, man, I wish I would have been that different. That's okay. We don't beat ourselves up. We learn, right?
That's exactly right.
So
Exactly.
bring it back to homeless. So back to you, question for you. What do you think, in a place of not enabling but empowering, in what's going on in your city? What are some of your thoughts with that? What would you do?
Oh my goodness, how much time do we have? It's well, so I see so many broken systems. I see we have a catch and release program that's a big problem. I also see we don't have enough rehabs. That's a big problem. I think those two things right there. And then we don't have enough housing. It's apparently it's like a 5 year wait here. It's so complicated because it's a long wait to get on the housing list. It's a long way, a long list to um, get into rehab. The shelters, if you're clean, that's not a long list. You can go there as long as you're clean and you can get a bed and, whatever. There's also different dynamics here as well. We've got people who don't live in the area of our biggest encampment who go and feed them and give them haircuts and lice checks, and they go to the public for free sleeping bags and tents and all sorts of different things like that. So
Is that good? Do you think? Do you think that's
no, I don't
good? Okay.
think so. I no, this is just my personal opinion.
Yep.
But no, I do not. And they're walking distance to a soup kitchen. So this is where, and at the beginning I supported it, like 200 days ago, right? But now we're way into it. And and like haircuts but if you have a house, you don't like, it's different. There's so many people that are home poor. There's so many people that are buying their groceries at Dollarama. I buy groceries at like it's not my main thing, but they have name brand things. I mean, I do the best I can. We're living paycheck to paycheck. So, and I get it that nobody asked to be in that scenario, but at the same time, if you keep, I watch and read so many testimonials from people who've got themselves clean and they agree with me, right? I watch testimonials from mothers that children live there. Some of them, they're raising their children and they're like, my daughter is never going to hit rock bottom. And I also know people that live within a block away from this big encampment that have apartments on social assistance, but they still have a tent there for when they need a hookup. And then nobody knows where they live. Like we've just created, and the enablers are not just the people bringing them food every day. And again, this is just my opinion. It's also, and sorry, not sorry, the city council that's not dealing with them because they have rights too. It's the police, and I stand with the police on this. They're getting sick and tired of being called out because of the catch and release program. So are they going to go through this whole big battle to get this guy, and and whether like whatever, but are they going to go through this whole big thing to get this guy to put him in jail to see him the next day at the same location? I mean, we live 6 or 7 blocks away. It was about 6 o'clock one night, and Al says, who has his own story, right, of years ago before we met, of addiction. And he says, hey, I just watched somebody walk by our house smoking crack. And it was like 6 o'clock. And it was just like you would walk down with a cigarette. He was walking with a crack pipe. Like it's it's just so wild. And it's just it's so many different things. So this is where, and actually last week when Gwen mentioned the enabling, we sort of had touched on this topic a little bit, because it's like and it's just all around in different things, right? Whether, and it just touches so many different things. So like as a community, what do we do, right? And I'm 6 blocks away. I feel so much compassion for the people that are it's in their eyesights what's going on, it's
And here's the hard thing, Ron. Thanks for your comments. And so there's a bunch of people on. Thank you, everybody, for jumping on. And so I'm just going to say this, that like generally speaking, right? We'll have people on here that will agree with something I say or Michelle says or Ron says or not agree. I want you to know that there's this tension on kindness and wanting to better mankind, which is totally fine. And then, as Ron put, there's a thing about how do we find this place where you have to be responsible, right? So I'm going to throw out a thought. First of all, I was going to say, it was in the news of Vancouver last week. A guy, he throws a rock into an Asian restaurant window, and he grabs lobster in the front tank, whatever,
yeah,
and goes out and gets arrested. Then they release him. Then he goes in, and they have it on video because there's cameras placed, and it's in Chinatown, whatever. The same guy throws a rock through the front door and then throws a smoke bomb in the place. And there's people there.
yeah,
They arrest him again. Guess what? Right? Yeah. So my wife works in probation. So her and I have like, how do you have empathy in that? Here's what I wrote down, right? here's what I believe is one of the challenges with the mindset with, we're talking about homelessness and drug and like, we got to figure out mental health. And like Michelle said, how do we get the people who need the help and they don't want the help? But just
Yeah,
write it down. Someone else is responsible for my lifestyle and needs.
right.
So this is an anarchist mindset. And I think, Ron, a little bit, you're not saying this, but I think you're saying this, is what happens is you have people that feel that, like, I'm going to use like a basic thing. They feel like, I want to live free. I don't want to pay rent, that mindset.
I don't want to work.
I want to barter and sell on the street. I want to black market, all this stuff. So no judgment, right? But then again, they're the ones that, want to go to the hospital when there's an issue, or they're the ones that,
Mhm.
want clean water, or they're the ones that like want to go use the city park shower in the bathroom or the sink. And some of them don't have the mindset, like there's drug addiction, mental health. So that's a whole different thing, right?
Yeah.
But there's this anarchist mindset. I read a book about this a while, not a book, article about this quite a while ago, and it was, I think I told you about this, Michelle, about in Portugal, where so this is talking about enabling, empowering. So in Portugal, there was this guy who spoke at TED Talks, and he talked about in Portugal their street crime and their homelessness was like almost 50% in like the big cities. It was brutal, right?
Yeah.
So through the psychology that they did some tests on mice. Did I tell you this
Oh,
already?
you did. You
Yeah,
did.
yeah. And so they did a test with mice with 2 water bottles. One was doped up, one was clean. And when the mice was alone, they went to the drug one, right?
Mm.
And so first of all, think about when you're have mental health issues or even drug issues, you may be in a whole bunch of homeless people, but you're actually singular, you're alone, right? You haven't been there, right? And so what they realized, and this can come across as, is that enabling or empowering? So that's what I'm saying it. So they did this study. This was like, I think in the 90s, maybe. And what they did is the government realized the money that we were throwing into all of the things to deal with this. They started, through some psychologists and people that are in this kind of realm, they started creating opportunities to help them become drug free and all that, but to give support and to give opportunity to maybe start a little business and doing tie-dye shirts or whatever they're doing, right? And so the guy that was speaking to this before, I think it was 10 years later, they said the crime rate and homeless rate below 20%, right?
Right.
When my friend was in Greece, who lived in Athens, where the anarchists were, I've been there and seen it. What he did, sidebar, this guy was a missionary. So this was like a guy he's a pastor, very good friend. He doesn't look like a pastor. He looks like he's a Viking or a dwarf. He's in between those two,
One
right?
or the other.
Very good friend of mine. I love this guy. Yeah. And you know what he did? So in his idea of missionary, he where he lived, none of the men worked. The board, nothing to do, so get in trouble, right? So they had a bunch of street signing and a whole bunch of graffiti and that. So where they lived, there was anarchists were there. So people, you can get a building and a apartment, whatever, and not pay anything because nobody's there to run it,
Yeah,
right?
right.
And so they had this kind of office downstairs he got. And so he was teaching guys doing graffiti how to make shirts and sell shirts so they have money. He was teaching people because he knew how to make like pipes and knives. He's kind of a practical guy, right? So he was there 7 years, and he says, you know what? He said, being there and not just feeling sorry, not just giving a handout, trying to give them tools.
Right.
There's a great saying, I don't know where it's from. It says, give a man a fish, feed him for a day.
Yeah.
Teach a man to fish, feed him for a lifetime, right?
Exactly.
So the challenges goes back to my thing about communication. How do we first of all, how do we communicate to ourselves? If you're an enabler, if you find yourself stuck there, you've got a family member that you love dearly. If it's I don't know if anybody's watching it. If it's a child, if you have a son or daughter that's dealing with addiction and you feel like if you do tough love, you're abandoning them, and you deal with shame, which is very, very common.
Mm,
give us a shout, talk to us. We can maybe help you out with some stuff. But you want to have that honest. You want to be able to help. Your goal is you want to see that person healthy. So
right.
you have to be willing. Like sometimes you may like go do something for the people, in my opinion, downtown. Like I think haircuts to me, I don't know your situation. I know people here that done haircuts for homeless people that couldn't get
Sure.
them. That's okay. But if all of a sudden you're not teaching them to take care of themselves,
Exactly. That's right. And giving them a reason to be sober. You know what I mean? If it's one fix to the next fix to the next fix, then, and they're getting cell phones to call in for their appointments and their food's being delivered. I don't like, honestly, I've never been a drug addict of anything hard. So I can't say I'm living from experience, but I've sure been around a lot of them. And you know, it's such a hard thing. And then, you know, there's people that didn't start like that ended up homeless and didn't start out as drug addicts, but that ended up a result, right? So finding the homes if they're interested. That's where effort comes in. And that's where, and like, I can't put them on the housing list, even if it's a ridiculously long list. They need to put themselves on
yeah.
the list, right? But then with that comes confidence, so many different things. Yeah, it's such a big thing, but it's created such a big mess. And
Well,
it's all over Canada. It's not just
yeah.
in Chilliwack and
So
Sarnia.
if you think about, because a lot of times we talk about kindness, we hear
Yeah,
little kindness things, I'm giving buying somebody coffee, right?
yeah.
So that's not enabling. That's actually
No,
empowering, just so people know, right? So part of like if you are like I have friends that are they would use the language they're cheap or whatever.
mhm,
And so I have a couple friends that are like that. Both are Scottish, by the way. And the one fellow is in my opinion, is it's a fear of not enough. It's a poverty mentality of the way he grew up in Scotland, right?
absolutely. That's
And
right.
then there's another one who it's different, right? So part of what it is understanding that like if you're compassionate, that's okay. Be compassionate. If you're like frugal, like Michelle said, like what Ron's saying too, I love like Ron. Thank you for Ron's very helpful with his input, right?
So good.
But
Yes.
part of what it is like we're not we're not all responsible to help people. Like there's some people I know that take care of their family, they're responsible people, and their savings are for their kids and grandkids or whatever, right? No judgment. I might be a bit different, right? But I was going to end on this. Here's a thought. I talk about movies all the time. So
You
if you don't have a
do.
quote, I'm going to do a movie.
I know they're so good today. Welcome, Nikki. Glad to see you sharing.
Yeah, thank you, Nikki.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Nikki. Yeah, like honestly, Nikki, I know somebody who I did some work. I did some work with a couple of years ago, and he was from this town, Kelowna, but he came 3 hours from where we were. So he was in a program I was helping out with, and he said it was safer to live in a wooded area, not a park, but a wooded area in this town, and then living in the local shelter. And that's not always the case, right?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna leave with two things, and if you have a sing, so I'm gonna tell you about a movie, and then I'm gonna leave with a joke just to kind of lighten the humor. I
Let's
want
leave.
to I
Finish
want
with
to end
that.
with a joke because Michelle talked about how much she swore inside her head when she was younger. A little bit. She was raised not to swear, right? So
Right. Right.
there's a movie out there with Owen Wilson, who I love. He's just like silly, whatever. There's a movie out there. It's not silly. It's called Bliss with Thelma Hayek. If you're kind of trigger, if things like stuff trigger you, don't watch it. Go look at the stuff. But my wife couldn't watch it. But you know what? For me, Owen Wilson was a guy that was an accountant, kind of nerdy looking, gets fired, downsized what it was, and it goes across the street into this bar, like out of the blue, fired. So
Mm.
unexpected circumstance. And he goes there and he meets this woman, Selma Hayek, and it's kind of you actually would like it. It's kind of it's a little bit of sci-fi, but it's really about um, in this world of drug use. So they don't glorify. They're not like doing like Benny and June was like they're not glorifying
Oh,
drugs,
yeah.
right?
Okay. Yeah.
But they talk about this pill, and in this pill you really see things how they are, right? So it was such a it was
Did see it.
not it was sad but interesting. Like I'm not scared to look at tough stuff, right? So Bliss is the movie if you want to watch it. Here's the joke, and then Michelle, you could end with words of wisdom. Okay.
All right.
So Little Billy, do you know Little Billy? Heard of Little Billy?
No, I have not.
Little Billy's 6 years old, right? So it's Halloween, and so his mom dresses him up as a pirate, right? So he goes out trick or treating with his mom, and Little Billy's like Little Johnny. That's another guy, a friend of his, and they're kind of like they're like the Calvin and Hobbes kind of guy, right? So they go to the first house and open the door trick or treat, and they said, "Oh, you're a pirate! How cute! Here's some candy!" Right? So they go to the second door from their house, and it's an elderly woman named Betty White. I don't know what her name is. I'm just saying Betty White for fun.
Okay.
Um, and knocks on the door, and she's like really old. She goes, "Oh, Billy, you're a pirate, right?" And she goes, "Where's your buccaneers?" And he goes, "They're under my bucket hat, lady." Jokes are free here. Jokes are free.
Oh my goodness, they absolutely are.
I should pay
I
you, actually. Sorry,
I
guys.
love that. I love that. Very good. I love ending on a joke. So I don't have a quote. I'm just rhyming off the top of my head here. Tom did share with me, and we didn't end up showing it, but it's just a nice little overview about enabling. So I'm going to share that on the page. And I just want to remind you, every week we get together, we just touch on these topics. We're just getting into different things, but we're just inviting you to think about these things and how they affect your real life, because everybody's got a real life. And actually, I do have a quote. One of the quotes that I really like, and it sort of ties in with a little bit with us, is and I know I've shared this with you before, Tom, if you're not spoon fed love as a child, you will lick it off a knife as an adult. And it's so powerful, right? So, you can give love to the people you love without enabling them, right? Without, breaking the bank, like don't help somebody else pay their rent if you don't have your rent or whatever that looks like. But I just want to remind you that you're capable and worthy of everything coming true. It's one day at a time, one step at a time. And one of the reasons why I do well, I've had a hell of a life. You've had a hell of a life. Tom's had a hell of a life. We've brushed off, we've got up, and we've started over every time, whether it's the job, the relationship, the place. I mean, I've started out with 2 chairs, a laundry basket, and a dresser. And I regained a new life for myself multiple times. So, just a friendly reminder, wherever you are in your life right now, this too shall pass, and it'll be a memory one day. So, look back, only take what you need, and carry forward with that, no matter what it is that you're after. And then for everything else that's going on, be aware, but proceed with caution for what part you're going to get involved and what part you're going to give, right? Because we're all just doing the best we can one day at a time. So that would be my message for this week.
And Michelle and you usually talk what we're about next week, and then sometimes we don't, not that we don't care about you guys and give it much thought. We're kind of intuitive in a way, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I want to tell you, congrats, Nikki. Thank you for sharing. You're pretty vulnerable with some stuff you're sharing.
Yeah.
We hope you're well. It sounds like you are well. Here's what I'm thinking about next week, Michelle. It's coming off what you just said, but coming off what I said. What about talking about what keeps you going on?
Oh, yeah, I love that.
So I'm saying that now for you, for the people here. We'll put some stuff on there, ask some questions, maybe get people to give us some of their thoughts and ideas. And just so you know, what keeps you going on might not be like it's easy. Well, my grandkids and this and there's things that keep us going on that could be unhealthy, like guilt, right? Oh, well, like
Absolutely.
my mom has said I better not die before her. Like, so there's these things that are like staying like, anyways, we want to look at the positive. Next week's all positive, by the way. But what keeps you going on? What are things that you can share with us, and then we'll share next week? What are things that get you to dust off the dirt off your knees? You fell down. And here's the other thing: what keeps you going on? But then what strength can you give to your fellow human being that helps them to go on?
Right. I love it.
Okay.
Very good. Very good. All right, everybody. We'll see you next week. Have a great one. Don't forget how absolutely awesome you are. And we'll do it next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Peace.
Hashtag.